Cool. I'm glad we're finally doing this. We've been I've been wanting to do this for a few years since I first heard about CommunityBridge and its Big Blue Button instance. Um, I first met Micky at a U.S. Federation of Worker Co-op conference, I believe. Um, let's see. I wanted to share that screen. It was a presentation that I really needed to hear. I was really glad that I heard it. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. So basically, it was at the 2021 worker like worker co-op week or something, U.S. Federation Worker Cooperatives, and Micky and a few other folks were talking about how we can't be neutral when it comes to using the internet. And what kind of blew me away is how um, right here, here's the presentation. Why co-ops need ethical technology in web hosting. What blew me away is how strongly y'all started when I think y'all were saying that when y'all were saying that uh, the internet is not like a neutral thing, that it didn't like develop in a vacuum, that it developed because the government needed to find other ways to repress movements of liberation. And so there's like the government's there's like unethical interests that have a jump on the internet, and that we need to uh, be more ethical and intentional with how we're using technology. Um, and that was really cool to hear, because I haven't. There's not much folks in the co-op world that I think who are thinking that deeply. And uh, the other another thing that stood out was how bad the Zoom security was there. We got Zoom bombed during that presentation, um, and in ways that I haven't seen happen in the Big Blue Button. Um, but thanks, thanks, Micky, for taking the time out to talk to us about Community Bridge and Big Blue Button. I'm hoping that with this recording, that we can convince a lot of our friends to get off of Zoom, to get off of like all this other stuff. Um, to convince their organizations and even employers to switch to something more ethical like Community Bridge and Big Blue Button. In the future, we plan to do a sort of demo to share with people how Community Bridge's Big Blue Button instance works as an alternative to Zoom, and Google Meet, and some of these other free softwares that are not so free. Um, so yeah, look out for that. Um, yeah, if we're radicals, we shouldn't be using Zoom. Um, Let me stop sharing this. Uh, so I'm gonna pass it over to Micky to talk about Community Bridge and its Big Blue Button instance, and why it's important and why we should be
Mhm.
switching over to using it. For in Prefigure Autonomy, we do use it for our meetings, for most of our meetings, which is
Mm,
great. So take it
great.
away, Micky.
Yeah, I'm really glad you came to that presentation. It was excellent to be able to do that. It was hard to get it into the list of presentations because some of the organizers didn't understand what it was all about, etc. And Zoom has just become ubiquitous and got in there with their millions, billions of dollars and just dropped it on everyone. So people are comfortable with using it and think it's a really great tool, which it is. It's a great tool, but the foundations behind it are not so great, and how it can be used. And even when Zoom was first getting recognized and used a lot, they were stating publicly that they share information with authorities. Well, that leads back to the same old thinking that we all have of I'm not doing anything bad. I shouldn't have anything to worry about. That's not the point, and I'm so sad that people miss that. Um, it's just kind of crazy, but it's normal to think that there's nothing suspicious going on. It's just me and my friends in a chat, you know. But then this week, that news that came out that I just passed you, in England, 4 people have been sentenced to 4 to 5 years in prison using for being in a Zoom chat room and planning a nonviolent demonstration. Now, I know many of you watching this will have done that tons of times. How can you count how many times you've been in a Zoom chat room talking about some nonviolent event that you're planning or your friends are planning? Well, just because it's only happening in England now does not mean it's not going to happen here. Things travel. Where I'm sure the lawyers are conspiring right now to see how did you do that, so that we can do that in our country. It's it's a lack of awareness that we have, and that we've been nurtured by software corporations to use the path of least resistance and the ubiquitous tool, and to not and feel like you don't have the skills or awareness to look behind the tool and see what it's really doing and how it could be working on you in ways that you yourself are opposed to. I have some hope that this new article will wake some people up, because I didn't have actual proof before that people were going to jail. But there are many cases where it's more subtle, where Zoom has been a part of a jail sentence. So when I started being in a cooperative, and that was in 2006, I joined Agaric. We're a web technology cooperative. We build websites and platforms using free software. And I don't mean free as in no cost. I mean free as in protects your privacy and is freely available, so that you can run it yourself on your own servers or on the server of someone you trust. People don't understand. Usually it's a hard knowledge thing that, oh, my internet provider is part of the mix, where if they do a court case against me, they're going to go to this provider and see what links I've been surfing on, well, who I've been talking to, what meetings I've been at. um, but with Big Blue Button, we don't have that whole back end there, with the establishment. Big Blue Button, you can run it on your own server. There are many reputable people running it on their own servers and offering you a chance to make rooms or chat rooms on it that are completely private. We don't keep a log of people who are chatting or the chats that you have. There's no recording mechanism unless you decide to record it, and that recording is only for you. As of right now, it's very hard to find all of the components you need to be completely free on the internet. And it is a challenge to find a storage place that has big buckets of storage where you can save tons of recordings. So, as of now, most people are using Amazon, which is also a deadly thing. We're using the Amazon buckets, which are supposedly private, but I would not depend on that also. So what we are doing is looking for a reputable host that can host the large amounts of data that we'll have, and also a way for you to just save the recording to your device, which I think is preferable. That after a meeting, you could just click save and it would go to your hard drive or your choice of where to send your recording to. So we are actively working on that. I don't think Zoom is actively working on that. They have probably a contract with Amazon where they store all their stuff.
I should share that I was showing what the big blue button looks like earlier. Here it is on the screen. Just real quick. Yeah, there's the chat room. There's just the chat and like the user um, participants column, and this is where the videos would show. Um, just so, in case some people need that to know what we're talking about. We're talking about Big Blue Button. It is a yeah, it's a meeting alternative to Zoom.
Hello. I had some questions. Um, I guess first I would like to know is do you plan on growing this project? Like do you think that it has a lifespan for like 50, 60 years, or like what did you have in mind?
Yes. Yes, I would like it to be a forever project and to since we've started, a few developers have gotten involved in the actual Big Blue Button project, which is at bigbluebutton.org. There's a team of developers. They welcome people to their open logs. The issue queue is open to the public. You can go there and suggest a feature or post a bug that you found, and everyone who is on the development team is really, really dedicated. I've had a bug fixed in like 6 hours on Big Blue Button chat. I don't think you can do that with Zoom. Well, maybe you can. I shouldn't say that. They might be very attentive to some problems. But from what I hear from people who are coming to Big Blue Button from Zoom is that they don't get a response to any of their email questions. They just feel like it's, useless to try to write to the establishment there. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. But having their issue queue be open to the public, it's one place I steer people because it's very friendly. It's just like a forum where you look through it and search for the bug you had. If you don't see anything, you post it and people look at it. You can come back and see how many people have looked at it, and people reply to you, interact with you, and they're very, very active. So that's one thing you should look for in any software.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a standard of transparency you guys are trying to meet that isn't really seen elsewhere.
Yes. And to finish answering your question, as a lifelong project and longer than life, yes, we have a team at Community Bridge that carries on, and we all help each other do tasks or fill in for each other, or we meet every 2 weeks, and there's about, well, maybe 12 people that at least 6 or 7 are actively involved every week. So there are younger people involved to pass this project on to. Just because I started it, I don't consider that I own it. I think the community owns it. And if it was to die, it would be because the community doesn't like it or doesn't know how to use it or want to use it. And that can happen easily if they find Zoom easier to use. Then there are non technical people who steer away from it thinking you have to be technical. But you really don't. I'm not super technical. I found a reputable host for Big Blue Button, which is distance learning, and I did that thing that I talked about in the presentation that you mentioned at the beginning, where I was talking about ethical web hosts. What I do is when I want to host something, I get to know the person behind it before hosting anything. I have several short conversations and perhaps a couple of long ones with them, just kind of like this. Like, where are you going with your hosting thing? Is it going to be forever, or am I going to have to find a new host in a year? Um, with Big Blue Button, since it's freely available as an instance, there are many other hosts beyond Community Bridge. So it's not like if Community Bridge went away, you wouldn't have Big Blue Button. It's kind of out there. Most Ivy League schools use it. most high-end little prep schools and high schools use this, and it's not hard to find. It may seem like it because they don't advertise all over the internet, but if you search for Big Blue Button hosts or go to bigbluebutton.org, you can find a list of hosts.
It sounds like they recognize longevity when they
Yes.
see it. If you don't mind, I had some questions related to encryption
Sure.
and accessibility. Well, what type of encryption is used? Is it what type of format, I should say?
Encryption is used, and it's all on the bigbluebutton.org website. For people who want to deep dive into that, I would refer them there, because even if I did know the answer, but maybe I got the answer a couple of months ago, things may have changed by now. So I try not to delve into stuff too deeply like that if the expert has published, and I kind of point to bigbluebutton.org. And as I said, there's a team there that is so dedicated, it's unbelievable how quickly they fix some issues. Just look through the queue and see how long it took to fix some issues. And well, not every issue is easily fixable, but at least there's activity in the issue queue, and you know people are paying attention and working on it. So for any and all encryption issues, I would definitely look at their site and see what they are doing now. I know there's an issue with making it end-to-end encrypted, because we do not have a web app. Like Zoom has a thing that you download, and they're very sneaky about that too. They try to make everyone download it by putting the use in your web browser link down below the fold after it says download the web app. So you have to scroll down the page to where you haven't seen it, and choose this little tiny link that says continue in browser. They also, and probably not a fault of theirs, there are many features in Zoom that are not available through the web browser because they're depending on the architecture of the web browser, not their own app. So for a couple of years, I believe it was, Zoom was running a web server on people's computers without people knowing it through their web app. You would download their web app and think it was just connecting you to Zoom, but behind the scenes, um, many people don't know that web apps talk to your computer. Even some of them can do it when they're turned off. It looks off to you, but in the background, it's communicating with the other apps you have and doing things like keyloggers, finding out what you're typing in your Messenger app, and then reporting it back to a company like Zoom. So they were running programs on your computer without you knowing it. That to me seems extremely dangerous. And you have no way, since they're proprietary application, you have no way in hell of finding out what they're doing behind the scenes. And so they made some little apology and said they would stop, but then again, it's a proprietary application. We don't know if they stopped. We also know they were falsely telling people that they weren't running a web server. Um, and they were also telling people they were end to end encrypted for years when they weren't. This has all been discovered, but it comes out as minor little news that only techies would ever find on a, like Geek.com, or whatever website. The average person would never hear that about these things. That's deadly.
It certainly doesn't feel like they have your best interests as a user in mind.
Right. And the questions that
Great.
Gromke's gonna be asking, we pulled these from other activists in Chicago. We're curious, like we told them about CommunityBridge, and we're like, hey, do you have any technical security questions that that you think we should ask CommunityBridge for this interview? And so thanks for working with us on that, Micky.
Yes.
Just so people know that
Great.
this interview, it is something that there are some folks that they are curious, because we're not the only ones who will, like Micky, we're not the only ones who are concerned and see the hypocrisy of being anti-carceral, anti-status, anti-oppression, but working with Zoom, using Zoom. I think one of the things that I saw, um, let's see, one of the things that I saw that, and I should have been more concerned sooner than this. But one of the things that I saw that got me more concerned was when I saw this article. Let me see if I can share my screen. Um, Gotta switch it. Okay, cool. Almost there. I saw this article in 2022 where it says that the Zoom is cooperating with the Oceanside Police Department to try to integrate Zoom with drones, police drones. And I mean, it looked like a real article. um, and that just sounds like Zoom based on stuff that I've heard over the years. And I don't feel comfortable paying Zoom to incarcerate people, to help in the incarceration of people, and other things that can happen. And so I've been glad that to hear your work in this, Micky, and I think there is credit that should be given, because um, I understand that people can set up their own instances of a Big Blue Button, but the fact is, like among like a lot of folks that I know who are doing good work, they're not going to do that. Like if they were to do that, it's going to take a long time, and they will need the support and experience from someone like CommunityBridge. So I wanted to give public recognition to you, Micky, for kind of like sparking this, and making something available that otherwise I don't think it will be available for maybe at least 10 more years. Um, 'Cause I remember when the team was I remember when the effort was, you were like the main person holding the effort, and it's been awesome to see it grow to be a team, because there are other people who see the importance of it as well. And that's another reason why I think it was last year that I said, it's time to start promoting this, because it seems like um, the project is in a place where it does look like it's going to last. Because that's another thing that we also need, is that we need to like create these types of collaborations with efforts that are going to last. Like unfortunately, in a lot of this type of stuff, things come and go. But y'all have been doing this for a while now, and it seems like the only thing that y'all really need is more folks getting on board who would benefit a lot.
Mm,
But anyways, I'll throw
mm.
it right back at you, Gromke, to get on with all
Yeah.
these
If I
questions
could just speak to that for a
that
minute, what you just
that
said.
our
Yeah, I
friends
sparked this out of my own
had in mind and
pocket
wanted us to
and
throw Mickey's
have
way.
been paying $250 a month for the instance of Big Blue Button. It's not that hard for other people to do, to find a reputable host through bigbluebutton.org or ask me. I will give you the name and details of our host. So you wouldn't have to host it yourself. You can ask your provider to host it. Bug them, ask your provider. It's not that hard for them to host it. Or you can just yourself get an account with, like I did, distance learning, set up a WordPress website, plug it in, and you're good to go with your own CommunityBridge, unconnected to us or anyone else. So it's very, very simple. It looks like it's hard, but it's super simple. And getting to know my Big Blue Button provider was an amazing thing. This guy has been dedicated to providing Big Blue Button for schools worldwide for over 11 years. He's amazing. Like, we've shared family pictures. I'm invited to go to his place in Maine. He has this incredible spread of land with islands on it and stuff like that. And he makes a good deal of money just hosting Big Blue Button, but his heart is not in the corporate world. His heart is in helping people like me. He donated quite a few months of free service when I was not making enough money to support it myself out of my pocket. Right now, we have 180 users or members. I hate the word users. It gets so ingrained in us all and we just spit it out. Members. um, but there's no things that they have to do. So we have 180 people. Some of them are chipping in, and a small amount is all it would take is 35 people to post like $10 or something a month, and that would get my pocket out of the thing. But Agaric, my cooperative, did step up to help, and they have adopted the project and they pay the balance. I believe we're only making like $140 a month, but the server costs 250. So if anyone would like to be a member, whether you use Community Bridge or not, that doesn't matter. If you'd like to chip in and help the effort, we have a open collective, and I suggest people look into Open Collective for their own projects too. We're happy to help people look at other free software and ways to support your group by bringing in some money or having a method to collect money that is not, get you all in tax trouble and all this weird shit, going on. You don't have to be a business person to do it. So Open Collective, there's a link right on the top of Community Bridge. If you'd like to donate for us for a few months, even, that's welcome. So thanks. And Gromke, I believe I'm ready for your barrage of questions from the universe.
I promise it's not a barrage. I'll be what's the term? Anyway, I realize I probably should have looked at the Big Blue Button developers section to read out some of the explanations. Would you be okay with talking about like accessibility, like AI transcription or closed captioning?
Sure. There is closed captioning. It's really nice, and it does dictation too if you use the Chrome browser right now. Another thing there, the Chrome browser. But there is a dictation available where you can do speech to text and text to speech. So that is already in there. The deal with Big Blue Button is it's not like Zoom where there's one big thing that puts out the Zoom platform and everyone has the same platform. That's what Zoom has. Big Blue Button, many hosts take it and modify it to their own needs. So they can add that there are instances of Big Blue Button that have translation, that have all kinds of utilities, and a programmer can easily write those themselves and add to your own instance of Big Blue Button. Suggestions are welcome in the issue queue. So, get in there and make requests. You could just search for Big Blue Button issues, and it's a GitHub account where you can just sign up for GitHub, go to the Big Blue Button issues, and post your dreams, your requests, what you would like to see. So now for accessibility and AI, I believe that is being left up to people to do themselves if they want. I may be wrong, and I haven't kept up very lately, but I didn't see any news on the bigbluebutton.org website about use of AI. I believe a lot of what is happening with bigbluebutton.org, these are the educators that started Big Blue Button specifically for education for schools to use. So it's a teacher student format, whereas Zoom is like a presenter and audience format. The two can be merged. So now we're asking for features in Big Blue Button that we've seen in Zoom, or and vice versa. People ask for it in Zoom, but they don't get it. But keeping the main instance of Big Blue Button really solid and not putting a lot of things in it so that you can do it yourself. There's a group called Faircom, and they have written a whole translation thing, interpretation thing, so that there are interpretation channels, and you can have like 6 different interpreters with 6 different languages, and it's beautiful. It's showcased on the bigbluebutton.org site as to what you can do. So it's a different animal. It's not like a central service. There's no central Big Blue Button server that will serve up your needs. It's you spin up your own, or you ask your web provider, "Can I spin up? Can you spin up an instance of Big Blue Button for your users?" I guess they do have users. um, so it's like that. And that's kind of hard for people to get an idea of what's going on, because usually it's just a company and they serve this software to you and that's it. But Big Blue Button is many different flavors. You take it and you put the whipped cream on it. You put the strawberry sauce on it. Oh no, I want fudge. Okay, you use fudge. So it's different.
Okay, so I think I get what you're saying. You're saying that like every member customer group, I don't want to say customer,
Yeah,
has their,
I know.
yeah, they have their own instances pertaining to whatever their own ecosystem or culture needs.
Yes.
That, yeah. So I guess my next question would be, do they want to integrate with any applications that are already kind of founded in the same principles, like CryptPad? Or would that be something that's just up to the members?
Yes, configuring your own Big Blue Button instance is a thing, but the team at bigbluebutton.org listens to what your suggestion is, and if it would benefit a wide range of people, they do consider it and they do add it to their main branch. I guess we call it the main branch because they were the first ones. So what usually happens with a company that wants their own style of Big Blue Button chat, they would install Big Blue Button. Then they would have a programmer in their company work on making other features. Like I said, the translation or interpretation channels. And that's doable. So then you can put your the version that you have changed or hacked. We like to call it hacked because hacking is a good thing. Hacking is just changing things. People hack things all the time, and we're sad that it's confused with hackers of doing black hat hackers or white hat hackers. Hacking is just changing something. Like I can hack my chair into a table just by taking the back of the chair off, and then it's just the seat, like a stool. Okay, so now it's a table. I hacked it. um, so think of hacking in that way. It's a broader sense of what is going on. So working with your web provider, you can change things depending on if you have Comcast and stuff like that. Well, they're not going to be into it. So I suggest that you, um, well, it wouldn't be actually your web provider like Comcast. It would be like who you would host your website with. Like Agaric, we are members of May 1st, which is a co-op, and it's a hybrid co-op and 401 or 501, the nonprofit thing. And we have members that belong to the cooperative, so everyone's input is welcome. We're more, the everyone in it is reachable. There's no president of the company that you can't get to, So I would suggest you join May 1st. May 1st is using Jitsi. We have a version of Jitsi that we have hacked, and it has interpretation in it, and it's wonderful. We may get into Big Blue Button in the future, but for before Blue Button was thought of, we had already taken on Jitsi, and we have a wonderful version of it. We had to block it so that it's just usable by members because it was being abused when it was just open on the internet. Anyone could use it at any time and just log it. But now you have to log into your May 1st account. But May 1st, I believe, is only like $50 a year, and you get access to all these great free software tools we have. Plus, we are protective. We host some of the larger sites that are constantly, people are trying to take them down with denial of service attacks and stuff like that. And we are out front there protecting them. It's amazing the work that the technologists at May 1st do, and there's only a few of us or them. I'm not really a technologist, but I'm a technologist friend. Like I know how to break things.
I think that hacking should be taken back as a word. You're right. It
Yes.
is becoming too malign. Um,
Hmm.
I think if I remember correctly, you mentioned the Amazon servers. What can be done for members to combat this? Because I'm assuming like that's the biggest issue really is just that it's all this data falls into shadow hands, right?
Bad.
So yeah, people that aren't accountable to anybody and you don't even know their names
Exactly.
or what they're doing or what their
What does
positions
shadow
are. That's
hands
what I
mean?
mean. Like when we have Amazon servers, I don't know who that is or where that is or who's running that. We just know that that's probably has some connection to Jeff Bezos in some way, or maybe at one point did.
Exactly, and there's thousands of people with access to it that you have no idea, including consultants and contractors that come in for a few days and have to log in and do stuff in the system. But yes, when I'm on May 1st, I know who's touching the server. I know it's Jamie and Sarah and Paul, that are touching the server. It's there's no unnamed masked marauder using the system, or it's all transparent. We need to insist on this. We need to stop being hostages by these large companies where we don't know who has their hands on our stuff. People seem comfortable with that because they're non-technical. And they think, well, I don't need to know as long as, the company does that for me, I'm fine. I don't want to know cuz I don't understand it. Well, you don't have to understand it, but you at least should know that the person behind it is a good person working for your benefit and their own, and not just their own, and not just for dollars.
Yeah, I um not only with Community Bridge and Big Blue Button, not only can we like ask Big Blue Button to make some changes, we can also ask y'all directly in Community Bridge. Like I've been in chats with your team to talk about different features, and that's really cool. That's not something I can do with Zoom
No.
or um, and yeah, I haven't even um, so many products, and I'm walking away from a lot of these companies where I can't talk to a person, which is leaving me with very few companies. um, yeah, that's one of the cool things about this effort that y'all got going on, and I hope it continues to stay that way as it grows.
I would like to go back to the days, or actually, it was an illusion of the days back when we owned the internet, as just everyone owned the internet. I don't know if you guys were around at the start of I started working at an internet provider in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 3 days before you could post images on the internet. And I was
Yep.
Man.
it was amazing. I'm there, and then, like, the 3rd day, someone's like, "Oh my god, I you can post images now to people on your, web page," because websites were just all text. It was just all text.
Wow. I think that might be before my time, but that does make me ask, like, how do you think Big Blue Button and CommunityBridge will be able to interact with things like mesh networks? That might be
Oh,
what's coming,
yes.
right?
Yes, very well. In fact, you had asked earlier about Big Blue Button having plugging in and having access to other things. And yes, that is done. There's actually a page on bigbluebutton.org about having having access to things like Moodle and Canvas and other apps, other utilities. There's tons of them that they integrate with and have an API for. There are people making APIs right now for many more things. It's totally malleable in that way. Like, you can build an API to just about anything with it, and it's being done as needed right now. As I said, many colleges use this, so they're focusing on things like Moodle. Moodle is a online courseware where you can set up classes, and teachers can do send homework to kids and grade them, and do all kinds of deep schoolish type things. So there's no bars on that. I haven't seen anything that it people have brought up wishing that it worked with this, and then someone will post, "Oh, it does. We have an instance over here using Moodle or using Canvas." We actually used it with Canvas to host a exam prep course for 2,000 students in Boston a few years ago, and teachers had their own choice to use Zoom or Big Blue Button for their courses. And the teachers that used Big Blue Button reported to us that their students' math scores went up by 15% at the end of this course.
It must have been really validating.
It certainly was, but the crappy thing about it is we couldn't get it in writing, because Boston does this really creepy thing where as soon as a thing is ended, everything gets wiped out. All the teachers, their emails get taken down. No one can be contacted. Everyone is gone. The day, the day it
It's
ends.
like it's like it never existed. That's weird.
Yes,
Um,
wiped.
uh, I think that was all the tech related questions I had, Chris, unless you had some more of your own.
I think that there were some questions that we asked that were answered outside of uh, this session. Let's see. Like, there was a question that someone had of can Community Bridges Big Blue Button instance decrypt the communications, and Community Bridge said no, that cannot happen. And let's see. I think there was the only other question was about who has the ability to access encryption before, during, or after a Community Bridge. I'm sorry, before or after a Big Blue Button instance under Community Bridge.
Well, as I said, the issue with that encryption is Big Blue Button is encrypted on the server. No doubt about that. That is true. To encrypt end to end, you would have to have something on your end that holds the encryption key. But Big Blue Button does not have anything on your end. You're using a browser. So it does work with Tor, which I would suggest you try using the Tor browser if you are worried about things like that. Um, and yeah, encryption is done with an app on Zoom. And even though they had the ability for years to do this, and they told people they were end-to-end encrypted, they were not. You can just search for an article on the web about Zoom not being encrypted, but telling their users they were. That's kind of shabby. That's scary. That's like, oh, yes, that hamburger is vegan. The cow only ate grass, right? Yeah. Oh, man. It's crazy how people advertise things. So I would say if anyone is into deep tech dives, get into the bigbluebutton.org site, and you can reach out to people through the GitHub instance of their issue queue and actually talk deeply with the programmers about things like encryption. And some people are wanting to make an app for Big Blue Button, but it's very expensive to do that. And then the upkeep of the app, keeping it secure, is a liability. All of that stuff. And we kind of like the way that it's just light and usable, and would rather go the route of people trusting their web providers. I think that is a much bigger and better payoff when you know that the person serving your Big Blue Button is true, honorable, and a cool person.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the app thing because I hate the Zoom app. It takes up too much space on my phone. It's humongous. And um it doesn't even work that well for what I
Yeah.
need it for. And I've used your Community Bridges Big Blue Button on my phone. Android and iPhone. I just pop it into the web browser, and yeah, I'm able to participate in the meeting with it's with the same limitations that I would have using the Zoom app. I feel because there's not much like you can do on the phone compared to being on a computer when in a virtual meeting. In my experience, um, but hey, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Tor. One question I had. This is off topic, but have you ever? I've been told that people who just like go to Tor to their website and or if they download it, they get put like on a special surveillance list. Is that have you ever heard of that? I wonder if that's true.
I would not be surprised at any kind of safety type thing you try to do on the net when you try to protect yourself.
Hmm.
I would not be very surprised if you are put on some kind of list. But it's just getting more and more pervasive as to what you'll be put on a list for.
I'm gonna download it just to help camouflage all the honest people who use
Yay.
Tor to do good stuff, like
Mm,
journalists trying to
right.
expose corruption and stuff. So if that's the case, let me let me scramble things a bit. Um, hit download. Yeah, so I have a few questions. Not I don't have there's not much left. But let me stop sharing the screen. Um I think it was last year, 2 years ago, Mickey, you brought up that the French government was using Big Blue Button more, and that was like a big um development that would kind of maybe there was a sign that Big Blue Button is here to stay. And me and some friends were thinking about this, and one question that we had was if you know this like France as a government getting involved like this, does that mean that Big Blue Button's gonna become corrupted, that like the French government's gonna take over? And I have another question that's kind of related to this too.
Well, how could that happen? They have their own instance. They can do whatever they want with it. We're not going to see it unless we're in France, going, using their French government thing. So for French people, if they use the government's instance of it, that could be a problem. But why bother? You can get an instance of it hosted by someone reputable. Just spend a couple of months or a month or so getting to know a host, getting to know a Big Blue Button host. There's tons of them. Pay someone to host it yourself if you're a big corporation or a large company or a wealthy individual. It's like saying, okay, someone poisoned the Coca-Cola in Tennessee at the plant. Well, only the people that get those bottles from that plant are going to be tainted, not the ones who get it from the Idaho plant or the, California plant. So, how could that even happen? I guess people are just so used to thinking of Zoom like the monolithic central server thing. We got to get rid of that thinking. There's no use for a central server in most cases of things. Um, Diversify or whatever. Break it up. Use your own instance and make sure it's modified and secure. The base code, you can look at it all, you can read it all. You could hire a professional to read through it and make sure there's nothing dastardly hidden inside the code. So you can fully inspect it. So because the French government is using their own instance, that does not affect you.
And the other question that was related to this, and we had a back and forth about about whether we're just like splitting hairs or not. With this second question that's kind of related, so we're thinking about this. Like, there's this proverb. Supposedly it's an American proverb where it goes, "If you owe the bank $100,000, the bank owns you. If you owe the bank $100 million, you own the bank." So we were thinking, like, if France is just like the first government that's going to be using Big Blue Button, let's say a bunch of other governments start getting on board, um, could it could there be this pressure on Big Blue Button to develop in a way where becomes like dependent on government funds and then becomes complacent to the government?
You mean like if it were to become too big to fail or something?
Stuff like that. I mean, it's basically in control of the government, our governments.
I don't believe so because Austria is also using Big Blue Button. And I believe both countries, and if not, at least France, has declared Google Analytics illegal. So they are on a trail of discovery, at least, for getting rid of corruption at that level, corruption being able to happen, having it all in their control. So, yeah, that's just no one owns Big Blue Button. It's code. It's free. It's out there. It's not like anyone owns it. No one owns it. The public, and that means everyone owns it. The public owns Big Blue Button. You own it. It's your company. So why don't you use it? that's that's what I can't understand with people. This is yours. Oh, I don't want mine. I want theirs. I want them to surveil me. I don't know. They can fix it when it breaks. I don't know.
Do you think it has to do with like, oh, it's just not on the channels that I trust the most, like Google Network, Google App Network or something, Market, whatever
Exactly.
it's called, or Apple Market?
Yeah,
Man,
it's
we're
not in the
so
Play
messed up,
Store.
man.
I
We're
don't
so
know.
messed.
Yeah, that's that's
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
yes, we've been
exactly.
nurtured into having these horrifying things like a Play Store. I mean, I haven't used that in years. I run Linux on my computer, GNU Linux, which is the GNU operating system with the Linux kernel. Most people call it Linux, but it's actually GNU, and Linux is just a tiny part of it. People don't even know that. You see, we've been really good at misnomering or misnaming. We should take the tactics that the LGBTQ people take about the misnaming. We should find people when they misname our software. It's crazy because it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, you know? Calling me Bob is not as dangerous as calling your Zoom software safe. Yeah.
See your point.
And we're in the right thinking zone, but we got to apply it to things like software. Where did this come from? Who is behind it?
One powerful thing that I wish could have been kind of like one of the main things in the discussion today. Maybe it'll have to be for the future though, is how like I think that a critical thing about
Yeah,
Community Bridge is is the community aspect. Like
yeah,
that might not be so apparent to people, and the idea itself is
yeah,
it's another one that might go over our head. Because communitybridge.com and the way that it connects to the big blue button, it also tries to connect other members or users. For those who that's kind of like the term that will probably be uh more that will probably like lean on, or that we're like that's how we process things right now, as we're users. And Community Bridge is trying to change that. And and I think that that's a really important aspect of all this that I myself haven't really, I don't think I've really appreciated it up to now, and hopefully others who look at this will be able to appreciate it. Um, being on Community Bridge, it kind of blows my mind that I've seen Community Bridge trying to bring users or members together, um, to talk about different common concerns that we have. Like I think one of your like the Community Bridge town halls, where you're inviting people to use Big Blue Button, and people get together. Yeah, we're talking about the Stop Cop City, and that was really cool because I was just thinking to like, can you imagine Zoom doing that? It wasn't really until I saw Community Bridge and how y'all are trying to bring people together that I realized that the kind of regimentation that's happening without even thinking about it. Like, oh yeah, you can use these apps to bring people together instead of continuing that atomization. Um, and yeah, so I can't imagine Zoom trying to bring users together to talk about things like this. If anything, they're just trying to, cleverly um, con you into paying for your own surveillance, paying for your own and others' incarceration. Um, but and one thing that stood out one time when you were talking to me, Mickey, is that um, the idea of how like connecting people through Community Bridge and through this communication platform should be one in which we're kind of curious, in which we're curious about each other, like in our struggles and what we're doing in other parts of the world, so that we can turn to each other for help, for guidance. And the one that stuck out to me too was like repression. When you're getting repressed, like we should be talking to each other and helping each other out. So that's I want people to know that it's not just about communicating with like your local friends or your like your affinity group or something like that. The Community Bridge is also trying to network people together in ways that Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Meet are not interested in doing at all. And I think that's probably like so important because at the end of the day, I think that's the most important technology is like strong networks, strong relationships. Um, but yeah, I just wanted
yes.
to
I'm
share that.
sorry, but I've done this since 1996. using a chat platform to bring people together. It was wildly successful until the company that hosted my chat thing, which was a company that I had worked with for a few years and created this thing. It was a chat site and it had hundreds of thousands of members. And I did a thing where each chat room had a theme, and I encouraged people to meet in person and have an event for their chat room. So, like, there was a chat room called the Arizona Tea House. Many of the chat rooms, based on what this one did, they would rent a floor of a hotel room and have all the chatters out there for a weekend, engaging in meeting each other, having parties, celebrating, and people ended up getting married. I created cyber weddings, and was the first person to have people married online. People still keep in touch with me from 1996 and go, "We just had our fifth kid," like, like, what the hell? So it can be done. I have not had the I don't know the way to do it with Community Bridge now because people are so embedded in corporate tools and wouldn't trust anything like that. There's serial killers out there. The whole thing, hitchhiking is bad. But I'm sorry, I'm an old hippie, and I believe in those things, and they worked for my life and made me have built a stellar life for me of fabric of colors, amazing tapestry of people. But it's hard to do now because people are afraid and people are fearful of strangers now. We used to think strangers were just friends you didn't know. Uh, and so now it's like everyone's a stranger and they might be a serial killer trying to get me because I'm so attractive to serial killers? No, I don't. But yeah, so that was a thing I did back then. I'm trying it again with the town hall thing of get people talking on a subject and a topic and have it be maybe a series of town halls. It kind of hasn't worked because I haven't had the time and energy to devote to it that I would like to. Many of the ideas I come up with need to be handed off to several people, like a team, or at least another dedicated person who can take on the role of, hosting the town halls, or maybe at least planning them. I'm extremely bad with calendars. I see a calendar and my hair stands on end. Calendar, no, it's like terrible. So I'm just crazy like that, and I like to bring people together on ideas that they have, and form teams that go off and build things, and years later come back to me and go, "Micky, remember that thing you started? Well, I'm like I have 5 kids now, and I'm making a living doing this, and it's great." I like to build platforms for people to take off on. I don't have to be there. I don't have to go on the ride, but that's what I love to do.
That kind of reminds me about like how people used to get married on online platforms like
No.
you wouldn't expect, like
Yeah.
EverQuest or Ultima
Well,
Online,
I
like
started that in
MMORPGs.
1997, and a news show in Japan picked it up and had me on for three different Sundays. They were like a magazine show, like 60 Minutes would be comparative here, and they did a 15-minute segment on me each week for 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand it. It was in Japanese. So I'm like, "Hey, hola." No, that's and it was like, yeah,
It was
it
like
was
smile and
wonderful
wave.
though. And I was also, Arts and Entertainment Channel picked up on it and did a segment on my cyber weddings. And we had cyber wedding chat rooms with like an image of a cathedral and stuff. And people would write it out like it was a novel, like a screenplay. And people would actually come and play parts in their wedding. Um, the medieval weddings were the biggest hit. We had a medieval chapel. Yeah, amazing stuff.
Wow.
I talked to somebody whose parents met online, and that they kind of bragged that they they met each other before pictures were on the
Text.
internet.
Yes. Yes. Well, my first chat software that I built in 1997 is just text, and it's still running, but it has some of the features that I cannot believe that Zoom and even Big Blue Button doesn't have it. Things that annoyed me about the very first chat software I saw was that it didn't have a way. Now, do you ever go to a meeting where you're in there, there's about 12, maybe 20, 30 people, and new people coming in keep asking questions that have already been answered, and someone has to divert and go back to answering them or take time in the chat to do a lengthy answer, blah, blah, blah. What the hell is that about? My first chatware, and it's still running. It allows you to put when you create the chat room, to check a box to have a feed of the text inside the room on the front door of the chat. So before you enter the chat, you can see everything that happened before and get all your answers. How simple is that? And the other
Yeah, it's like pinned
Yes, it's so
notifications, right?
simple to do. That and the other
Yeah,
one,
that's
I think Zoom just added it. Big Blue Button doesn't have it yet, where you can have a group of moderators. You check off the moderators in the chat, and you can all talk in a like private chat. That's just so obvious. You need these things. And it was obvious to me 30, 50 years ago,
right.
whatever, but I don't get it. I'm not super smart. It's just like this just seemed basic to me.
I feel like there's a saying
Yeah.
that says what's old is new again. Like in my own life, I'm trying to do more ham radio stuff, and
Oh, my friend just got her license. Yay.
oh, nice.
At the Hope Conference. She went to the Hope Conference. Hackers on Planet Earth that just happened last weekend.
Okay.
And she got her ham radio license. Just recently, I've started a signal channel around based on the Mesh-tastic thing. Mesh-tastic, have you heard of it?
Yeah,
It's a kind of a mesh net in a box.
yeah. It's like
So
it's
it's like
pre-made, right?
it's easy for people to do a mesh net now. And we're getting people hooked up and trying to fill in the gaps on the mesh map. So meshmap.net tells where your nearest connection to a mesh net hamish type of radio thing. I'm not that well versed in it, but I love putting people together who are the experts or who become the experts. That's my gig. I like
You
that.
said it was called meshmap.net?
Meshmap.net. Yes. And meshtastic.org is the site for the Meshtastic thing. They've kind of packaged up, you know, walkie talkies or whatever, and a mesh map, a mesh net, like directions and how to set it up and stuff. So in Signal, people are actively in the channel working on setting up mesh nets or Meshtastic and reaching out, and people are actually getting connections. It's great. There's about 30, 35 people in the channel. It's just been there for a few weeks or so. And people are getting set up with a mesh net and connecting to people, getting their first connection on, like reaching out on a call and going, oh, I contacted someone. So we're using the mesh net map, meshmap.net, to find out where our nearest connections would be and trying to fill in the gap. If we know any friends in between there, we'll try to get them hooked up with a mesh tastic handset and stuff like that. But you're not limited to using Meshtastic. It just makes it easy
Nice.
for non-technical people like me. Half of me is non-technical, the other half is very technical.
I definitely will look into this because I think it shouldn't be centralized that way.
Right, exactly.
Um, one I wanted to end today's interview with just like a quick uh, walkthrough about how to get signed up to Community Bridge. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I did it.
Sure.
I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. So to get access to Big Blue Button, Community Bridge's instance of Big Blue Button, where you can create like as many rooms as you want. Um, it seems like that's the situation. Like I've made a lot of rooms. um, you go to communitybridge.com and then you go to register. And you don't have to be registered to gain access to other people's meeting rooms that they set up for y'all to have. And here you choose a username, you'll put an email in, and then you should get a invitation at some point to meet up with someone like Micky, to give you like a small walkthrough and get you started to where you can start creating your own.
Well, you'll actually get an email that gives you the login to your room, or to your login to create a room.
A lot of people are kind of might get stuck because they don't see a paywall. Um, but yeah, that's all it takes to get access to the software. But I encourage people so much to go to Community Bridges profile on opencollective.com, to become a contributor to the project, so we can sustain it. So yeah, opencollective.com/communitybridge. And if you scroll down, oh yeah, actually, I'm not even sharing the screen. Let's see.
So, as I said, Open Collective is another project that is just awesome. It allows you to collect money for projects that you're doing and sort them into projects and create levels of engagement. So,
Yeah. So here's Community Bridges Open Collective profile, and when you scroll down, you can choose how much money you would like to donate to the effort. And let's see what happens when you hit always to contribute. Um, yeah, here's the custom contribution option, and I am
thank
a
you.
frequent donor or contributor, and I would do that. Here's like you can contribute $5 a month. It's automatic. If you don't want to donate to the Open Collective website, you can uh, click I don't want to contribute to Open Collective. Um, but yeah, I mean, right now, a lot of us we're using Zoom and all that in our organizations. It's a big hypocrisy among those of us who are anti-surveillance, anti-abolitionist. I'm sorry, those of us who are abolitionists, um, who are against government overreach or oppressive governments. And we're basically paying to help incarcerate people, help get them in trouble. And this is just like the beginning. This is the beginning of it too. Um, we got to address that hypocrisy among us, especially like the anarchists. So I talk to anarchists a lot. Um, and plus it's so much cheaper to use Community Bridge. You can use it for free if you want, but I highly encourage people to donate at least like $5 a month. I know many orgs that have the money to do that, and we got to start like just walking away from Zoom and Google Meet. It's not free, and we're paying ourselves to be like our own narcs. Um, and there was one other thing, Micky, that you share with us for promoting Community Bridge, and it's this link that we'll put in the video. It's a template um, that people can share to like other groups to spread the word about Community Bridge.
That's great. I'm going to update it now that I have that link to that Zoom people going to jail for just talking about and not making a nonviolent demonstration happen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
And
yeah.
Mickey, you were talking about this in 2021. I remember you were talking about this in 2021. Um, and uh, yeah, this is just the beginning of this type of stuff.
But it doesn't matter if you're in the room and other people are in there. They're using geofencing to target you and locate you in a room with the certain
Hmm.
bad guy or bad girl, the people that they are following. So just by geofencing, they can see that you are all in this together
Hmm.
and you will be questioned. I'm not sure if people know about geofencing, but that
Hmm.
is something that you need to search for and understand, because people are in jail and prisons for being at the same laundromat as criminals, like 2 or 3 times in a row. You do your laundry Thursdays at 3. Well, so did the criminal, unbeknownst to you. So you must be having some secret meetings behind the washer and dryer, right? Um,
That's a guilt by association, right?
Exactly. So at least you'll be questioned, if not arrested. High possibility of you being questioned, and with these high profile things like this, the Trump thing with the ear and all that stuff, they're going to be on steroids now to inspect everyone for everything. It's just going to get worse and worse unless we turn our backs on it and go to things like Big Blue Button. And as I've said, I do not care if you don't use CommunityBridge. Screw that. Use Big Blue Button. Find somewhere to use Big Blue Button. That is the safety.
This was very informative.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be of help. And I'm glad to do this one on one with people too. I spend all my time about freedom, talking about freedom and getting people freer. I live for that. So it's excellent. Thank you guys. You're doing an excellent job. Without people like you, I'm toast.
Well, just enjoy it right now, because I have a feeling that more and more people are going to be uh,
Mm.
using Community Bridge, and
Yes.
growth. It has its growing pains and all that. um, but yeah, thanks for maintaining Community Bridge. Thanks. I use it a lot. I'm more in the habit. It's easier for me than Zoom to use nowadays. And
Wow.
I get more problems with Zoom than I do with your instance of
Mm.
Big Blue Button. So thanks for all the work that you do behind that. And I like at least once a week
Wow.
I get pretty upset at Zoom for something that's not working. And but with Community Bridge, I remember when Community Bridge it was still like in an infant phase, but to where I couldn't really use it with
Yes.
others. That was just like the first year, I think, when it was super super new. But yeah, I think it was starting last year, um, or 2 years ago. I forget. Like it's better to me. It functions better than
It's
Zoom
solid. It's
now.
really,
Less errors and stuff.
really rock solid now. And I'd like to just let people know, Agaric, we are a team of developers. There's 5 of us that, well, the 5 actual developers work in a Big Blue Button chat room all day long. It doesn't take a lot of resources. It's just a browser window open. Agaric, we open our Big Blue Button room and we're in it all day so that we are co-working essentially. But we're online co-working, but it's not running a heavy app that takes your power away from your coding, and it's really helped our progress, like being able to just say, hey Jim, what was that code thing you had, and they paste it in the chat and there you go. Questions answered immediately, and it's our progress has zoomed ahead on Big Blue Button. Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was trying to do that with Discord, but my computer,
No.
the way for me to do it would be to have Discord work on startup, but Discord it doesn't for me. Well, on all my computers, it doesn't work on startup, and to me that idea would kind of be inconceivable to leave something open because like I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I based on everything that I've done with Big Blue Button so
Mhm.
far.
We're on 3 different continents using it, pretty much 24/7. It's like it's amazing. There's always a party going on.
Mm.
So thank you guys for exposing all this. It's amazing that you're here. You do incredible things. Just helping people understand what's out there is a chore. You get a lot of backlash that's silent. The silent backlash. Oh yes, yes, Chris. Thank you for your information. Back to Zoom.
Hey, hey, Gromke, did you have anything else before we sign off?
No, that's all. I'm looking at
Thanks.
all these links she gave us. Uh,
Nice.
just not just related to Big Blue Button, but like Faircom to Meshtastic. I
Definitely.
think this is something I'm gonna need to digest.
Thanks.